Economic Community of West African States says its intervention, dubbed Operation Restore Democracy, involves 7,000 troops backed by tanks and warplanes. Its forces entered Gambia from the southeast, southwest and north. Regional armies who entered Gambia late on Thursday were meanwhile poised to remove him by force if required, as even his army chief, who had stood beside the former coup leader, recognized his rival Barrow as commander-in-chief.
As a Muslim and a patriot, I believe it is not necessary that a single drop of blood be shed. Since the beginning of this political impasse that our dear nation is going through, I promise before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the entire nation that all the issues we currently face will be resolved peacefully. I am indeed thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that up till now, not even a single casualty has been registered. I believe in the importance of dialogue and in the capacity of Africans to resolve among themselves all the challenges on the way towards democracy, economic and social development. It is as a result of this that I have decided today, in good conscience, to relinquish the mantle of leadership of this great nation with infinite gratitude to all Gambians, women, children, youth and men, and friends of the Gambia who have supported me for 22 years in the building of a modern Gambia.
Jammeh asked his supporters and supporters of the new President Barrow to work together.
I am proud and honored to have served our country, the Gambia. While thanking all of you, men, women and children, members of the armed and security services, humble citizens and all those who have supported me or were against me during this period, I implore them all to put the supreme interest of our nation, the Gambia, above all partisan interests and endeavor working together as one nation to continue to preserve the highly cherished achievements of the country, its sovereignty, peace, stability and integrity, as well as the economic achievements realized during these years.
Barrow, who won the December 1 poll by slim margin, was sworn into office at Gambia's embassy in Dakar on Thursday and immediately called for regional and international support. Gambia's Army Chief General Osman Baji, who had been perhaps the last remaining pillar of support for Jammeh, said he would welcome, not fight, the regional force.
On this story, we're now joined in studio by our very own SABC foreign editor, Ms. Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, Sophie, Jammeh has finally stepped down after those hours of last-minute talks. I mean, tell us about that.
Well, indeed, he finally stepped down yesterday, early hours of this morning in our time, yes. That is South African time, because you'd recall that yesterday again the ECOWAS, the regional body, did send representatives to go and persuade him to step down. You are aware that the regional force, particularly soldiers from Senegal, were already in the country and in the capital city, but they were requested to take a step back and to give negotiations a chance. And indeed, they did negotiate, and finally he agreed to step down. And the irony is that this is the man some few years back when we had a interview with him as the SABC. In fact, he was addressing the journalist in his country, yeah. And SABC was there. He had this to say. Let's take a listen at what he had to say then in terms of democracy and handing over power.
Let's listen in.
See, elections in Africa. Elections everywhere divide the people. But the problem with Africa is that after we have been divided along party lines and somebody emerges victorious, instead of putting the country ahead of partisan interests, we continue to cling to our own vested interests. That's the problem in Africa. But elections divide societies all over the world. Remember the United States elections. But what the difference is, after the elections and somebody emerges victorious, what is important is the country. And that is my priority.
That's what he said. He said elections do divide people. He was fully aware, and he did the same thing. But a few years back, because he had won, he was victorious. He wanted people to accept the will of the people. He wanted people to accept the results. But this time around, because he didn't win, he wanted to stay in power. And this is the man who got into power through military means.
So
and
he sounds like a hypocrite
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Sophie, let's talk about, at the core of his reasons, why did he not want to step down?
He said he didn't believe the outcome. He wanted the
rerun of the elections.
Yes, the rerun and all that. But the way he was going about this matter, it was not correct, because indeed, in terms of the electoral processes, any democratic country, a person has a right to air his views or to disagree with the results and follow proper processes. But he had agreed that he was defeated, and he made an about turn.
That's what shocked everybody. Yes.
No, it's because, you know, it's very important sometimes when you have won, you must be human enough to find a way to deal with a person you have defeated. Because if you start threatening people with jail and sending them to The Hague, and that's exactly what the new president did, you make the previous person to be afraid, and people will cling to power.
So there were errors on both ends.
Yeah, you have
Sophie,
to find a way to ensure justice prevail if there were human rights violations, but be careful how you go about it.
I understand you also have a clip for this one on this topic for us.
Yes, you know what? But it's what kind of a person he was.
Yeah.
He was very funny person, you know.
I had an interesting interview with Lehana yesterday, and he was telling me, very funny stories that sound like, he might not necessarily, or old age or something is playing with Mr. Jammeh here. But what kind of person is he really, Sophie?
Well, he had a terrible track record on issues of human rights. You are aware that the Commission on People and Human Rights of the AU, that is being currently chaired by Advocate Pensitla Kula, the former chair of the IEC, is based in Gambia. And on many occasions, the Commission had compiled reports complaining about human rights violations. You are aware that journalists were being imprisoned, were being tortured. And he had a terrible track record. And let's just take a listen in terms of his views on the media and journalism in particular.
Let me tell you one thing. The whole world can go to hell. If I want to ban any newspaper, I will, with good reason. Because the journalists constitute less than 1% of the population of this country. The freedom that you will not have is the freedom to take a pen and assassinate the character of somebody. If you do that, he will take you to court. Now, some people don't want that. What we want is responsibility. You are dealing with the image of somebody. This is Africa, and this is the Gambia, a country where we have very strong African moral values. And all what we are saying is that if you write that Yahya is a thief, you should be ready to prove it in a court of law.
Mixed messages.
Very
he says,
interesting.
I don't care about journalists, but okay, people can take you to court if you say things that are not correct.
If you use your pen to assault a person's life, as so he puts it.
Yes, but in the same breath, when he started, you could hear that he was saying, I don't care about media, but then he realized that I'm dealing with media and these images or my sound bites or whatever I'm saying, it's going to be communicated to the entire continent of the world. And then he makes an about turn. So he was that kind of a person, forthright in terms of his views. He says, no, we have values on this continent. Should the values, your values, should override my views, or, how do we deal with that? Because indeed, different groups, different countries, different individuals have different values and perceptions and beliefs and
Absolutely.
norms. So do you abuse other people because you don't believe in what they believe in? And yeah, that was the kind of person he was.
Very interesting character indeed, but let's move on now. We're trying to find out more about the incoming President Adama Barrow. Tell us a bit about him.
Well, he was an activist, but apparently he's also a businessman. Not much is known, but indeed he had a support. And you are aware that even the independent groupings like the NGOs really supported him, and they really stood up and said, no, we cannot allow a situation where he doesn't get into power because he was elected. Let the will of the people prevail. And he's still currently in Senegal. We've been battling to get in touch with his people to try and speak to him, but we're hoping that we will pursue that interview and we'll know him better, we'll do justice, we'll speak to him and get more facts about him.
Absolutely, I'd love to know more about the Gambian new president. But what happens now do you also have a soundbite for that on that topic for us, Sophie?
Yeah, no, it's about, it's a lighter piece, you know. As SABC, you know, sometimes we get in different countries and bring news to different people, and they do listen and they do appreciate our work. And at some point in time, the outgoing president also made remarks in terms of the South African media. Let's take a listen.
I'm interested to hear this one.
What is important is this country. I don't believe in killing people. I believe in taking people before a court of law. If you are sentenced to death, I will not kill you if I don't want to. If where it is necessary to kill, I will kill you and go and drink a tire. But I don't believe in killing people. I believe in locking you up for the rest of your life. So that maybe at some point we say, oh, he's too old to be fed by the state. You release him and let him become a destitute. Then everybody will learn lessons from him. But what is amazing is that you African journalists are being used to say so many things about African governments. I remember there was an interview during the AU, and what was amazing is that no African TV station carried out that interview, and you were all there. SABC was there. The interview I had with the journalist, Elizabeth Blunt and others, it was neither on Western media, nor was it on African media. Because what I say, some of you don't like to hear that. And I always speak the truth. Someone is smiling. I'm not accusing anybody. But SABC, I remember, was there. Lehana? Yeah. And I was surprised to find out that it was not even put on SABC Africa. Despite the fact that what I said was true. The West exploited us for 400 years. And that is why we have problems. And it was never put on SABC Africa. I'm not picking on you. I'm telling you how we feel. We think that SABC Africa, being one of the international media, should defend African interests.
Well, Sophie, I mean, what a character. I mean,
he says,
I won't kill people if I don't want to.
Yes.
I mean,
if I want to, I can. Mixed messages, you know. But that's the type of person he was. But currently he has agreed that he will leave office and the new president will come in.
Let's talk about that. When he leaves office, what happens to him, Sophie? Because I remember not long ago, he was even offered asylum in Nigeria should he want to leave Gambia to go because of the way that he didn't want to step down from power.
Well, it's not clear yet. These are the issues that will follow up today. What are the conditions and where will he be? Yesterday, we spoke to one of the activists from South Africa who said his jet was already at the airport and that there were reports that the pilot, it's a South African citizen, and he was only surrounded by few people, and some people even made allegations that they suspect that those were mercenaries. And that will be a serious indictment in terms of if it was to be true and that those people who were helping him to cling to power were mercenaries. It will then come to a point where journalists will investigate from which country. And then it will obviously affect the relations between that country and the Gambia because they were trying to assist a person to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think before end of the day, we'll have full details in terms of where he is currently or where he has gone to or what are the conditions in terms of him last night agreeing to step down.
All right. Well, let's hope he goes and looks after the plants that are at the back of his house. Sophie, I understand. Let's talk about other international news now. We know that Washington is currently experiencing protests, and we spoke about this yesterday. The big issue of today is that Women's March, where gay and lesbian rights issues as well as gun control issues will be debated. Take us through that.
Yes, yesterday there were sporadic protests around Washington, but today it is going to be the whole America, different states. But the main focus will be again in Washington. And fortunately, Shawan Bryce Peace is still there. He will bring us all the news in terms of the protest. You are aware because of the time difference. I think the activities are likely to start around 5, 6 South African time. So we'll bring the news from an African perspective. On the ground, we'll be there to communicate or to show the viewers what's happening. And clearly there is a problem. Some people are still aggrieved. They don't want to accept that today we have an American president, Donald Trump.
Sophie, let's speculate. Do you see these protests being ongoing for what length, amount of time? Because, he's already the president. He's barely started it. It's his first official day in office today. So what if he protests?
I don't know. It will depend. He has to reach out to those people who are aggrieved. And the sooner he reach out to those people who are aggrieved, the better, because everything will subside. But if he continues to make statements that are divisive, yesterday his speech didn't
Let's talk about his speech. A lot of people were actually poking holes in his speech, saying that that's not what they would have expected from a 45th American president.
That's what I expected from Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America.
With a 19-month all political career, should we add?
He is who he is, and really Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He's a businessman, he's not a politician, and he made it clear before and after he won that he is not going to change, but he will reach out to those who want to reach out. So everything on his terms.
But let's talk about that. His first pronouncements as of yesterday, the complete overhaul of the website, and of course announcing that he's going to go ahead and scrap the Obamacare. What can these do? What is the long-lasting effect of these pronouncements?
The speech yesterday was quite clear that he was going to undo whatever he feels that doesn't sit well with him. He made it clear that gone are the days where politics takes precedence, and he was dismantling the establishment. And he said he's giving back power to ordinary people, which is not necessarily true. Indirectly, he was saying, I'm going to undo whatever politicians have done. And really, the last president was Barack Obama. And clearly, he made it clear even during the campaigns that he was going to effect change on many issues, or on many resolutions and programs that Obama had introduced. And issues of climate change, issues of reaching out to the international community, holds a different view. Therefore, I'm expecting more changes. I'm not surprised. And the problem is, what impact will this have to America, but to the world? Are we beginning to see a complete new world order, particularly him choosing Russia and constantly attacking China?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And particularly the BRICS member countries, are they going to allow him to continue to attack one of the member countries, which is China? And what will Russia say when he continuously attacks China, when Russia is part of the BRICS?
Well, it seems like
nation?
Russia is now the new biggest ally of Donald Trump, as we saw in President Vladimir Putin yesterday. Sophie, we have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for that round update of both continental and global news. That is the news, of course, that, Mr. Donald Trump is now officially the U.S. president.